Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our first paid StarCraft Underground tournament. We are in round 3 of the losers bracket. Today, I've got a PVT for you. As soon as I get everything set up here. All right, here in the top right, as our gray Zerg player, we have LML. Down here in the bottom left is our blue Protoss player, Ziggy Stardust. This match is going to be taking place on Eclipse, as always, for our first match of the round. And we've got a natural just down the ramp outside the main for both players, a third just up the way, and a fourth just beyond that. Meanwhile, out here in No Man's Land, we've got a mineral patch up here in the top left and 2 down here in the bottom right for both players to try to fight for. Now, I have not cast many Protoss games this tournament, so this will be a little new for me. And I don't think that I have yet to cast a match of Ziggy's. So I'm kind of unfamiliar with Ziggy's playstyle. I'll be curious to see what kind of build order Ziggy chooses to go with. On the other hand, LML I have cast a few times this tournament, and LML seems to me at least to excel at early game pressure and is pretty good at defending. Has good lean micromanagement. So I'll be curious to see if LML pushes out here and tries to get some early pressure on Ziggy. Alright. And looks like we've got the probe coming in here, being a nuisance. Gonna be able to scout out that early spawning pool. Meanwhile, down here for Ziggy, gonna go ahead and start the Nexus. And we'll see. Drone scout on its way down. We've got a photon cannon coming down. Okay. So the photon cannon likely going to be a response to seeing this spawning pool early. Ziggy going to be trying to get ahead of this Ling scout here. So hopefully the photon cannon will be done for Ziggy before the Lings get down here. We'll have to see what happens. Meanwhile, for LML, we've got the hatchery down in the natural, about halfway done. Photon cannon definitely going to finish before these Lings get down here, so Photon cannon really shouldn't have much trouble defending against 2 Lings. We're about to see what's going to happen. Takes a shot on the Overlord. Yeah, these Lings not even going to be able to get close to the Photon cannon. This probe kind of plugging the gap here anyway. So the Lings would have had to have chewed through the probe first to even get to the photon cannon, and that was definitely not going to happen. LML almost lost that Overlord to that photon cannon, but did get it back in time. Going to be able to pull the Overlord down here and scout out the main. Meanwhile, we see this probe up here for Ziggy, still running around being a nuisance. Ziggy getting good value out of this probe so far. Is able to scout the 3rd expansion. Looks like LML is going to park a Ling outside the base here for an early detection. Okay, LML going to try to block the probe with a drone on the ramp here, it looks like. Oh, the probe able to sneak by, though. Oh, wow. Okay, so the probe's able to sneak by, and because of that, Ziggy is able to see the layer tech here go up for LML. So that's pretty big. Ziggy getting a lot of good value from that probe right there. Yeah, so, yep, and there. So in response to that scout, we see the Stargate go down here for Ziggy. So getting a lot of value from that probe scout right there. LML kind of let that one slide. I'm kind of surprised to see that from LML. Normally LML, well, from what I've seen, LML is a pretty good defender. And as I've already stated, has pretty good lean micro. But somehow the slippery probe, it always seems to be the probes too that are the slippery ones. This one gets a lot of good scout value. So back here at home for Ziggy, we see we've got air weapons and ground weapons being researched. We've got a Corsair already in production. So Corsair already in production before the Spire is even going to get done. That's not a good sign for LML. Lean movement speed though, on the way. Yeah, Probe not going to make it out of that one though. So good job, Probe. You did your job, buddy. You did good. What do we have here? Hydra. Okay, so Hydra Din going down. I'm curious to see if LML is going to stick with this Mutaplay after having been scouted like that early on. Oh, and here's the Corsair already flying in with the 2 Zealots. So I'm not sure if Ziggy had to know that those Zealots were not going to get through that. I wonder if that was just a distraction to get this Corsair in there to try to pop something. So this Corsair likely going to be able to get these Overlords killed. A couple Hydras in production here, but this Overlord's definitely going to go down before this Corsair, before the Hydras get done and are able to protect it. Okay, likely going to skedaddle on out of here. So Corsair gets 1 kill, loses 2 Zealots in the mix though. I do want to see if LML is going to shift away from Mutas though. So the Spire gets done, and we don't see any Mutas queued up. Instead, what we see is a few hatcheries thrown down here. So I think that was probably the right call to shift away from the Mutaplay for LML. I already seen the Corsair flying over their base before they were able to even queue a single Muta. So good response there for Ziggy, able to scout out that early layer tech. Likely knew Muta was going to be on the way, and responded well by getting the Stargate out, and early Corsair to fly across the battlefield and kind of deny the Mutaplay here from LML in general. So LML still choosing to drone up, had about 11 in production there. Meanwhile, back here we've got another Corsair being made. Already looks like 4. Let's see. Yep, 4 Corsairs already down here. Melee weapons just got done. We've got Storm on the way. Started melee weapons level 2. Zealot movement speed. We see the High Templars in production. For LML, we see Hydra movement speed, Overlord movement speed. Flyer Carapace. I'm kind of surprised to see that. Flyer Carapace? Interesting choice. I thought we'd abandoned Mutaplay. Maybe not. We might see it later on. I wonder if that was maybe... That may have been maybe a misclick on that. Maybe thought that LML may have thought they were going for ground armor. I am very surprised to see that come out though. Looks like we have a little bit of a move out here from Ziggy. Likely going to come up here and scout this third and see if they can't do anything about it. Sees the Sunken, sees the Hydras. Gonna decide to back off that. So the Scourge gonna come flying up here to try to scare the Corsairs. One of them took a couple shots there, but not too heavily damaged. Okay, so Ziggy just kind of getting a lay of the land here from the Zerg player. Kind of scouting out, see what's going on. This Corsair is doing a good job of kind of scouting around the Zerg base. Seeing what's happening. Ziggy kind of sees what's going on and decides to pull back. Not really enough Zealots to break through, and there's not really any good targets for the Corsairs to get. Good map vision right there from Ziggy, though. Able to see those Scourge as the Corsairs were flying back through. Able to see those and pick them off before even taking a single hit from either one of them. See a little bit of a gateway explosion going on back home here for Ziggy. 5 gateways in production. We've already got 4 produced, so 9 gateways total here for Ziggy. Looks like level 1 ground armor. About halfway done at this point. couple more Scourges in production for LML. Hydras being produced here. Looks like LML going to fan out some links, gain some map vision here. Try to find the army of Ziggy. See where it went. Gonna see it up here at the 4th base. Corsair's going to try to fly in and see if they can't get anything. Hydra's just waiting in that base, though. Really preventing the Corsairs from moving in and getting any Overlord kills. Alright, meanwhile, back at home for the Protoss player, we've got 6 Dragoons being produced. Dragoon attack range in production. 10 Hydras being produced right now for LML. And Ziggy is somehow able to escape those Corsairs right out of the south there. That really surprised me. There's a lot of Hydras standing right here. I thought for sure that at least one of those were going to go down. So LML definitely on defense at this point. Normally LML, from what I've seen, LML's pretty good at defense, so we'll see how that translates here. A lot of Hydras parked in the natural in the 3rd. Okay. These Zealots definitely going to get pushed back here by this Hydra count. We see a 3rd going down here for Ziggy. Little Zealot down there hiding in the bottom. Likely going to be watching for that, for an expansion down there from LML. Okay. So here we have Ziggy kind of geared up a little bit. Now the one thing I don't see just yet in this army is an observer. However, I do see one in production right now. Might see both these armies go head to head over these hills right here. Nope. Alright. Ziggy pulling back. Not going to try to push up that ramp, which is probably a good idea. The Hydras definitely have pretty good advantage on that, having that upper ground on the ramp right there. There we see Lurker Tech being researched from LML. Going to move up with the Hydras now. Take the second ramp up here. Looks like Ziggy going to be moving across the top of the battlefield. Maybe try to attack this 4th base. Yeah, definitely going to... So, alright. So Ziggy going to be attacking the 4th base right now. While LML trying to push in down here at the natural. Does a good job kind of stretching out the Hydras right there. Yeah. Takes a couple hits from the storms right there, but doesn't lose a whole lot of Hydras to that. Does lose the 4th base, though, while the Hydras are down here. Gonna try to force the Hydras up the hill against the photon cannons. These storms not really hitting that well right now. They're dealing damage, but no massive storms landing just yet for Ziggy. Yeah, another one right there. Doesn't really do a whole lot. Gonna see how much damage LML can do here to Ziggy. Yeah, the Zealots are on top of the Hydras now, so it looks like this Hydra army gonna get cleaned up. But we'll see how much damage it's gonna do before it does so. Okay, so good response here from Ziggy. Gonna be able to protect the 3rd. So LML, in all of that, LML loses the 4th base. Attacks the 3rd, gets a decent amount of probe damage. Ziggy down to 36 to 41 drones. So does some good damage on the drones right there, but doesn't get the 3rd. A lot of Hydras already produced though. So Ziggy not going to get too much of a counterattack in here. LML able to gear back up and be ready for this army, this Protoss army to push back across the battlefield. Hydra's up here having good attack on the high ground, but massive storm goes down right there. Another one on the top, getting the Hydras right there. Let me zoom out here so we can see what's going on. Big storms right there on the top of that ramp for Ziggy. The Dragoon's going to be able to come up and clean up what's left of that army there. So, good job there with the storms from Ziggy. See an Archon be produced here in the middle of all this. Another good storm, causing LML to have to walk all those lurkers right through all that. My gosh. So after we see a few storms down in that south battle not really go off that well, we see just hit after hit after hit with the storms from Ziggy up here in this northern battle. Storm's really doing a lot of work in that battle. LML definitely not out of it yet by any means necessary, though. With the 6 hatcheries, LML is just going to be able to crank back out armies. As long as they have the resources for it, that is. I guess nobody's business. Ziggy decides to back up. Going to regroup this army, reinforce it, come back in for another attack. This time we do see the Observer in the mix here. Might lose that one pretty quickly. Does so. That's a little bit of a... Must have been a little bit of a misclick there on that Observer. Do see another one in the army mix here, so not too worried about lurkers at this point. This is not looking good for LML at this point. Okay, looks like LML going to try to go for a double pincer attack. We have Hydras over here in the front of this, and then Hydras coming in into the backside of this army here. Zealot's able to pull back on this side. Kind of pushes the backside off with the storms, and then gets a really good storm on the Hydras on the front here. So good storm management, forcing the Hydras in the back there to back up. Those must have been on a rally point right there. 2 free Hydra kills on that one. Oh no, I just walked into another storm right there. Yeah, that's just too much pressure on LML. LML's not able to defend against this army. Not really a whole lot here, but at that point, LML is on their back foot. Not able to really break the pressure there. Good game by both players, though. I will say, I think the early probe scout definitely gave Ziggy the advantage in that match. Being able to come out and stay one step ahead of LML, I felt like the whole time. Keeping pressure on the Zerg player, not really letting them expand, not really letting them have map control. Kind of kept LML on their back foot, and Ziggy able to capitalize on that. Did a good job there. So we'll see what we get into in round 2. Alright, let's go ahead and get into match number 2 between our Protoss and Zerg players. LML here in the mid-right of the map as our gray Zerg. And down here in the bottom left, Ziggy Stardust as our pink Protoss player. This second match is going to be taking place on Dominator. This is a 3-player map. First spawn location down here, and of course here, and the other spawn location up here in the top left. Each location has a natural expansion just up the ramp from the main for both players. There's actually no entry from the ground inside of the main here. As you can see, in order to get into the main, you have to come in through the natural, just like normal. In through the natural, except down the ramp instead of normally we go up the ramp. This map's always an interesting one. Kind of a weird spoke-like pattern, focused right here on the center of the map. A lot of times we see battles take place on these ramps, especially between Terran players and Protoss players. Okay. So, looks like both players are going to be sending both their scouts up here to the top left location to start out with. Ziggy going to see that first, and then likely send the probe out down here to the bottom right. Well, mid-right, I guess. Okay, so looks like we see the spawning pool. Similar timing last time for LML. Likely going to see another forge go down here with the pylon. And we do so. I have yet to see Ziggy play on this map, but I have cast a match for LML, and LML actually spawned in the southern location here against another Zerg player, and was able to defend against this choke point right here by throwing down a sunken colony and LML spread out their Zerglings across this, kind of made like a Ling wall right here, and was able to hold back the other Lings from the other Zerg player. Had a successful defense, and it actually caused, that was actually the cause of their victory in that match, previous games. So LML definitely familiar with this map. And has had victories on it before. Zerg player going to be going for the natural expansion already. Sends out an Overlord. Not sure what this drone's doing. Might just be hanging out, having a good time. Going to be waiting to expand up there, likely. And here we see a drone being a nuisance. Taking a couple shots off on the photon cannon before running away before it gets done. That's cheeky, LML. Get some good hits on it, though. Looks like Ziggy is going to be able to hold back. Okay, we'll see. I thought Ziggy was going to be able to hold back here. Looks like LML's trying to push in with the drones. I thought LML might have ran in the Lings behind the drones there. Maybe just changed their mind. I'm not entirely sure what that was about. But anyway, we see a probe transfer here for Ziggy. Another drone down here. Might get a somewhat of a proxy hatch down here. And of course, we got the slippery probe over here doing its thing. Cybernetics core in production for Ziggy Stardust. Gotta be honest with you, Ziggy. I think the pink goes good with your name. I don't know why, but Ziggy Stardust definitely giving me pink vibes. I like it. Alright. So, hatchery's going down in 2 locations now. Instead of throwing them in the 3rd and the natural, LML deciding this time to kind of spread out the hatcheries across the battlefield. Gonna park the Lings outside the natural of Ziggy. This probe, I'm telling you what, this probe got MVP in match 1, and it looks like it might do the same thing here in match 2. I'm curious to see if LML, if the purpose of these hatcheries is to kind of spread out and hide the tech that LML is going to push for. Because last time this probe got really good early scouts off on LML, and the probe was able to see the early lair, which allowed Ziggy to get out the Corsair before the Mutas could even come out on the battlefield. Okay, so LML opting to go for another hatchery. So not much tech really going on here for the Zerg player. Really just focusing on getting a bunch of hatcheries. And there you saw the creep colony there. Could be likely going into a sunken, yep. Meanwhile, Ziggy already has a Corsair out on the battlefield. It's going to be popping this Overlord here before too long. 3 Zealots on the move. So we got Zealot movement speed being researched. Melee weapon 1 being researched. More Corsairs in production. Photon cannon going down there at home. For Ziggy, we've got the Hydro Den and a hatchery going in to block. So this is kind of what I was talking about with LML being kind of a defensive Zerg player. We've seen kind of this similar wall, I guess, for lack of a better word here. Ziggy did something similar in match 1 there, where they stacked the Hydralisk Den up against a hatchery to kind of protect the entryway to the natural. So using the Lings right there to plug the rest of that gap. But Ziggy just so fast on getting these Corsairs out. No Hydras on the battlefield yet, and that's going to put a pretty big hindrance on LML. LML's going to have to turn around now and spend more money back into Overlord production that should be going into probably Hydras at this point. And looks like LML's had enough of that. Going to be getting some Spore colonies out. And here come a few Hydras. We put some pressure on these Corsairs, but we're likely going to see another Overlord get killed. Yeah, we do see one go down, which puts LML on the back foot again now. 37 out of 29 population. And I don't think these Corsairs are going to be going anywhere. I think they're going to be flying around looking for more targets. Yeah. And meanwhile, we've got LML getting real sick and tired of it. Going to be throwing down creep colonies. I'm kind of surprised to see that this one wasn't a spore colony. I would have expected to see these two as creep colonies and then this a spore colony. Okay, there we go. Okay. So at least we have a spore colony there. Doesn't entirely surprise me. Corsair's going to be looking for any juicy Overlord targets that might have been flying around randomly. I'm guessing Ziggy was thinking maybe an Overlord might have been scouting one of these mineral patches. Just looking to get as much value out of those Corsairs as possible. I wouldn't be surprised to see LML throw down like a spore colony back here on this mineral line. Because as of now, these Corsairs could fly in from the south right here, get in here and start harassing these Overlords. A couple Hydras here to protect, but really not a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Only 4 of them. Uh-oh. This does not look good for this third base. Oh, and a DT here. But we do have the Overlord. So we'll see here what Ziggy decides to target. First, goes ahead and chooses to bring in the DT here in the midst of the Zealots. So the Zealots able to get in there and clean up all the stuff. So yeah, so this base definitely is going to go down here. The Zealots are met with the Hydras, but the DT is going to be in here, so it doesn't matter if the Zealots were even killed at this point. The Hydra's definitely not going to be able to take out the DT without an Overlord there. The DT just going to be slicing up these Hydras. No Overlords in the area to kind of protect against that. Wow, and LML throws in the towel. Sees the writing on the wall, but I guess that's just too much early game pressure. LML feels like they were just trapped, couldn't really do anything about it. So it looks like we got Ziggy Stardust. Gonna be winning match number 2 at this PvT matchup. Good job from both players, though. I think in the end of that, the DT and the mix probably was making the difference there. A lot of Zealots there, and not really much LML could do to kind of stop that. So, good job from both players, though. Congratulations, guys. Well played. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed it, feel free to join us in the StarCraft Underground Discord. Or if you want to take part in one of the tournaments, you're always free to do that as well. Until then, take it easy.